Well, the last part of chapter 3 continues with where we left off in the previous section, which is finding the volume and the capacity. This time we're going to look more at spheres and cones, and then also pyramids. So very similar lesson. If we want to find the volume of a tennis ball, we would need to know the radius of the tennis ball. So when I look at this diameter, we just have to remember that diameter is twice the radius. So to figure out this volume, we have to make sure to cut the diameter in half and plug it into the formula. It's cubed, so we would go 4 times pi times the radius cubed and divide that by 3. You also have to interpret your answers. So this question says, tennis balls are commonly sold in cylindrical packs. How could you find the volume of a cylindrical pack? So you'd have to consider a cylinder, which we did in a previous section, and consider the height of the tennis balls. And you'd add, well, one tennis ball is 6.7 centimeters high, multiply that by 3, and that's now the height of your cylinder. So you're just going to have to interpret what you're calculating. And you'll also be asked about ratios and to consider, well, what happens when that diameter or the radius changes. You'll also deal with some cones. So this question involves a pile of gravel, and here's the formula for the volume of a cone. It's the radius of the bottom part of the cone, which would be a circle, squared, times the height of the pile, and then we divide that by 3 after squaring the radius and multiplying it by pi. And when we talk about volume here, it's going to be in meters cubed. Could also talk about feet, cubic feet. And this question is kind of interesting because it talks about proportional reasoning. What does that mean? How do you find the volume if you double the dimensions considering proportional reasoning? And if you don't know what that means, make sure you ask me about it, and I'll be glad to explain it to you. Another example that comes up is involving, again, a sphere, which is just a ball. And again, watch for the diameter. We have to make sure we're dealing with the radius. And we have to be able to convert from meters cubed to liters and back and forth, and then to interpret, what about gallons? 1 gallon is 3.785 liters. What does that mean for the gallons in this tank? Because usually if we're talking about fuel, we talk about gallons. It's kind of an important skill. You'll also deal with some questions that involve multiple three-dimensional figures. Here I see a cone on top of part of a ball, which is a sphere, over top of a cylinder. And this person's making gnomes, which are like those garden statuettes or statues. And what if we're asked to find that total volume? How do we do it? Well, first we'd have to do it carefully and label our work. So that's a real key, to take your time and do it well and keep your work organized. And that's what I'm here to help you learn to do. Or practice doing. I think you should already have a sense of what that means. So this is the end of chapter 3. You're going to do the practice assignment, do the check, make sure your definitions are up to date. Then you get to the review assignment, make sure you're on top of know what you're doing. And then you can write the test and move on to chapter 4. So that's it. Again, make sure you let me help you when you need help, and we'll get through this together. Good work.